Hi everyone, this is Travis from the Berm Show. If you are a veteran or active military member and looking to connect with a fellow vet or service member in your area, then check out the new mobile app, Lower 22 Vets, available on Apple Store and Google Play. They also provide gifts and prizes to their subscribers. This month, they're giving away, believe it or not, a red dot site. How kick ass is that? Sign up is free and easy. Enter for your chance to win. Thank you. Yeah, so jumping right into it. Yeah, so if you want to share a little bit about yourself, and you're a fellow veteran, obviously, and you said you were in the Marine Corps and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Well, my name's Adam Nance, and I just recently started an organization called Lower 22 Vets, and it's really to combat the veteran suicide rate on that daily basis. But yeah, I was in the Marine Corps from 2002 to 2006. I joined right after 9/11. I was in college. Well, I was kind of in college. I was playing football for college, and then between that and the college politely not asking me to return next semester, like I wanted to join the Marine Corps because that's what my brother did, that's what my dad did, my uncles and everything were in the military, and originally no real desire, but I mean that was a significant day for everybody.
that's true. I mean, I can remember that day. I was in, I think, sixth grade when 9/11 happened. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. I remember that whole morning though, because like my grandma ran over to our house, and because she always took us to school, and that whole school day we didn't do anything besides just watch the news. And pretty significant moment. I mean, in history, in American history, obviously. So,
So yeah,
um,
that's what I did, and I ended up somehow starting with one MOS when I was at the recruiter's office, and then about 3 weeks before I was graduating boot camp, actually got changed to another MOS, which was Motor T, and like I think that actually worked out pretty well though. So and yeah, like I got to do 2 tours in Iraq, and that was that was a real just it was a real cool experience to be able to like share something like that with other people. Like it's something that you can't replicate anywhere else. Like I said, I was in college playing football, and people talk about those times, and like I can't remember the short period I was there, but man, I loved that being out there in the Marine Corps with them.
yeah, I think that's like what I think about when I was in the Navy and stuff, and like life after. It took a while for me to start realizing what I missed about it, and that is like the camaraderie aspect of you're all in the same shit together. And I think the cool thing about the military that a lot of folks might not totally understand also is that you're hanging out with people, getting to know people from all walks of life. It's not just people in your hometown. There's guys from other countries. There's guys from the south. There's guys from north, the east coast, and you're all together in the same shit together, essentially. You know, and you
Like
can't
I
really
grew up in a
duplicate that.
pretty I don't like it was a white dominated area where I grew up, and then like meeting all these different people and then just seeing what everybody has to contribute, like it was a rad, awesome, amazing feeling.
Yeah, my experience, it's kind of the same. I grew up in a small town in Northern California, so it was mainly country folk and like Hispanics and stuff. That's all we really had. So going to Navy, it's like my best friend who I still talk to. He's from Louisiana. Just a straight, Baton Rouge type kid. And then one of our other friends that we'd go to different ports with, he was from Chicago or Detroit, just a big old black dude. It's like, man, we got like oddest group of friends that we'd hang out with, but it's just, it's not something I've ever really experienced besides those 4 years I was in the Navy. You can't really duplicate those types of relationships, I guess, outside of it.
Yeah. So where did you all get to experience while you're in the Navy?
Oh man,
I
Navy's a
only got
fun
sent to
one.
Iraq, so I don't know of any like beautiful destinations or anything. So like I like hearing about like the cool places everybody else gets to see too.
Yeah, so we did some pretty cool stuff. What I was part of was I only did one deployment. It was a Westpac. So I got to go to Japan, China or Hong Kong, Malaysia,
That's
Singapore.
awesome.
We did go to off the coast out there, Middle East area. So went to like Dubai, Bahrain. Um, I know I'm missing something else here. Thailand. Can't forget Thailand. Can't forget Thailand. Um, Probably the craziest place I've ever been is Thailand. By the way, all the Navy people know that I've been there. That's the wildest, craziest place I've
Cool,
ever
man.
been.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and the cool thing is like kind of like you were saying, my family's really strong military. My grandpa was in the Navy. His dad served in World War II, I believe. So did his uncle. My uncle was in the Army. So it's just something that it was instilled in me. Like I always knew I was going to join the Navy, or not the Navy necessarily, but the military. Um, I'm happy I did because it's probably been the best experience you could have as a 18-year-old fresh out of high school. So
Awesome.
yeah. So also kind of want to dive in. So what experiences, you're saying how much you enjoyed being in the Marines and all that stuff, and how how's like being in the Marines different versus obviously being in Navy? You're in Iraq. You're probably doing some crazy stuff compared to what I'm doing. And how those bonds, like how does that friendship really push you through those tough times over there?
So, like my experience, like we had the first time I was there was during the invasion, and we ended up in Babylon. And honestly, like the coolest people I have ever met are the Seabees. I like the Navy Seabees. I swear they're like Amish with tools, and like they were like the coolest people in the world. That just they felt like they had that military aura about them, but they still just were very just like, hey, like let's go build this stuff and like get that done. So we did a lot of security details for them while they were like going to different schools and trying to rebuild schools and stuff like that. So like being able to do that with them, like it was just an amazing thing to watch them work. And like you don't think construction's like that big of a deal, but like they're building structures while getting shot at, and like they're not paying attention to like getting shot at because their job is to build things. And that's just like, how confident are you in your abilities to building something where you're just like, okay, cool, just shoot at me, like I'll still get this done. So like I had a great experience, and I think that they like that different branch shared it with us. And so it was just a cool thing to watch, really.
Hmm. Which is funny because usually there's like the whole Marine versus Navy
No, yeah,
type
yeah.
conversation.
Well, we need to get places, so we use you guys. And then we
I
give
know.
you all like the dirt bags that nobody wants in their unit to go with you on ship. So like you're taking care of double duty.
Oh yeah, and then we just dump them off, and we're like, "All right, see you guys later." But oh man,
No,
that's cool
I
though.
had a really good experience. The like because we went, since being motor T, we had an extreme luxury over anybody because we could literally be like, okay, we're driving here, and our master sergeant was just an a guy that nobody wanted to deal with. Like he was so he had our back so much that when they were asking him for to do stuff, like he always looked out for us first. But then that also like translated into, hey, we want to go down on a convoy to Kuwait, go down to Doha real quick. And so we had that luxury of being able to get to that base and do all that kind of cool stuff too.
That's cool. And I think like that's where I was pretty lucky too. We had some strong leadership in our division. Like we had a CWO4 bosun who just nobody ever fucked with, and I think having that, it
It's
just
such a
trickles down like,
difference. It's such a difference in just
yep.
quality of life.
Yeah, your confidence level goes through the roof too, because like on deployments they call them replenishment Cs, these RASs where like a supply ship will come up and they'll shoot fuel lines over so we can get some fuel and stuff like that. And man, I remember in the mornings for those days, he would get like some pre workout, put in his hand, and just drink it straight out of his hand. Just like, what the hell is this guy doing? But you get fired up. I think having those strong leaders like that, it's such a great thing because you can have the duds, the ones that are pushovers and that you don't respect them. Ultimately, I know they might be an officer or high ranking enlisted individual, but if you don't have that respect, it kind of
I think
hard
honestly,
to
like
lead.
you were saying with the confidence, though, like our unit actually got the presidential unit citation because of how fast we were able to get into Baghdad and everything like that. And like our master sergeant's confident, like our we got so lucky as far as like we only had we had two people get hit by an IED, and then we had, I think, one person actually get killed and two others get injured from an air blast mortar round. But other than that, out of all the convoys we did, like we rocked it, and like it was a direct reflection of his confidence in us. Like
Hmm.
we were the baddest people out there on the roads.
Man, that's crazy though to think. I mean, I don't know. That's where I can't even imagine like being on the roads like that and IIDs and stuff like that. And I'm sure you've seen some things, and I mean, how does any individual deal with that in a sense? I guess how because you said you were in college at the time. So how old were you when you initially went?
When college politely asked me to leave, I think I was 19. And well, I went to an NAIA school, and I was just it was just a bad situation and all. So I needed to get kicked out. I needed to. Um, and so like it was 1920. I signed up, and then when I was 21, I actually spent my birthday in Babylon. So yeah, that's when yeah, I was 21 when all this stuff was really like going on. 20, 21 years old, and it looking back at it, it's so crazy on seeing how those 18 to 21-year olds are just you're really running the show. You got all that responsibility. I felt like nothing in college, like nothing, no sense of responsibility whatsoever, obviously, since I got kicked out. But man, like I remember because I had a sergeant who was really on his stuff. And looking back at it, you're like, dude, that dude was 20 years old and he was able to communicate all this stuff and be able to do it in such a way that like you felt his experience like he would be like what my age is now, like 40 years old. Like, and it was just exuded in these guys. And that's the crazy thing is the level of maturity that everybody has.
Yeah, I think it's funny because the Navy's similar to that. It's like I worked in with the jet engine fuel. That I was an ABF, so it's weird to think, no college. I was fresh out of high school, and I'm in charge of ultimately testing jet engine fuel, making sure there's nothing wrong with it. And there's like lives at stake if I mess up, if I don't report something correctly, or if I do get a bad fuel sample, I just let it slide. Well, now that pilot's life, if something happens to them, that's on me. And it's crazy to think that that's how the military overall operates. There's more enlisted than officers, I would imagine. So it's like these 18 to 22-year-olds outweigh these college individuals that are in charge essentially, but have almost more
I remember
responsibility.
driving a lieutenant, and I was just absolutely naive of that very fact. And I'm like, I was like, so like we're just having casual conversation because this is right before the war even broke out, and we're driving into the middle of this staging field in the desert, and I'm just talking to him, and I'm like, I have this vision in my head of what they are, and then I was completely like floored. I'm like, so like thinking that he did all this kind of like military college and all this stuff. And he's like, nope, I got a geology degree. I'm like, so rocks. I was like, good to know this.
It's like he came out to the desert with that geology
Yeah,
degree.
I was like, oh man, this is. I was like, I was thinking all these people because you see the movies and you think that they're all like Captain Winners and stuff, Band of Brothers, and then he's like, nope, rocks. I was like, oh, that's not
And
good.
it's so true because even like officers that we'd have, lieutenants and stuff like that, everybody would just assume like, oh, they got a degree in like basket weaving. That was always a joke. They got a basket weaving degree, but that's also where you have more respect for like your E7s, like for a Navy, that's your chiefs and your senior chiefs, master chiefs, and so on, because it's like those guys have been here for 18 more years, plus. And it's weird to see them salute somebody that's fresh out of college. But then at the same time, some of them don't. Some of them have that respect because they also train a lot of the officers that come into the Navy. They shadow chiefs and senior chiefs and stuff like that. So it's a weird dynamic, the whole officer to versus enlisted to me, because it's still like you're saying, you would think this guy has like a shit ton of experience, but no, he just
I was just like, and it's not saying anything bad. I was just like, wow, like this is just this guy is kind like he is essentially kind of like me. Like I'm not like I don't know what I'm doing. Like, but man, I should have studied rocks in school. Like, get
yeah.
paid a lot more.
I know you were in college, so it's like, man, if I would have just not got kicked out, gone like two
Right.
more
Like all I
years.
man.
Oh man, that's wild. Um, so even joining the Marines, because you said like at 19 years old, when you joined, did you have like what you thought would be like the expectation versus what ended up being reality for you, or is it kind of what you expected going in?
I, from hearing my brother's story, it was a different expectation, but also my brother was a grunt, so when I was going into it, that's the feeling more or less of what I thought I was going to get. But then you realize real quick once you get out to the fleet that there's no lesser of respect, but man, like they just infantry guys just hold themselves hard to like that constant boot camp style of thinking. And I love that. But like then you go and like I said, I was motor T. You get those certain fringe benefits of not being a grunt. So
Yeah, so you're probably getting to eat at your barracks, wherever you guys are at on base, dinner every
you
night,
know,
lunch,
at
and
least I can drive. Like it was fun because I could go while we were doing just training on Pendleton, go and drive them off into the mountains, and then be like, "Okay, guys, see ya. Like, have fun doing what you're doing."
so you were kind of like, it sounds like you were doing what the Navy would do in a sense. We
Dude, I
drop
was
them off.
Uber. I was the original Uber.
Oh man, that's crazy. See, I didn't know the Marines even did something like that. I'd always expected an every Marines just either in tanks or getting shot at constantly, or they're on the front lines kicking doors in.
Like
That's what.
for me, when I was in Iraq, literally the second time it was when Fallujah was going off, and that was more like that. Like, but it was just us and my unit personally. we had a small base, and every single day we just had countless mortar rounds just come in. Like it wouldn't be kicking indoors. It's more running for cover because they're literally just. I think one day we counted they did like 72 mortar rounds in 2.5 hours on us.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it was just a nonstop, constant barrage. The very first day we got to Fallujah, uh, I want to say about 30 minutes after our convoy came in, they started shelling us immediately. Like, and that's what it was for the 9 months I was there. It was just a daily, like, going outside the wire felt more secure and safe because at least you have your weapon and you can do something back. Like, this is just literally hoping something doesn't fall on you.
See, I can't even imagine that mindset, like having to get used to that. I'm sure. Do you become like numb to it after a couple days or weeks, however long it's going? You're just like,
Oh,
no,
well, I
you're
mean,
just
you get to make jokes about it, but like to become numb, like I was standing on top of the Humvee and we are getting ready to just literally go across the bridge to a water plant that they destroyed to try to help the engineers rebuild it. And as I'm stepping up on the Humvee, getting ready to get in there with the 50 cal, and my buddy's looking up for me at the ground, and it sounds like a tennis ball machine. It's all thum, thum, thum. And he looks up, he's like, incoming? I go, not this early, dude. And it was probably about 20, 30 feet right over my head. You just see a fire, like just a fire tail. And it landed in our motor pool, probably about 100 feet away from me. I'm like, yeah, it's never numbing. It's more just you
holy
make jokes
crap.
about dealing with it.
Jeez. Yeah, that's intense. I can't even. that is that's wild. I mean, jeez. Yeah, I can't even imagine having to deal with that at like 18, 19, or at any age. To be honest, at any age, that's just wild to you hear the sound and it's just like, oh crap, here it comes, and
Right. Right.
you know, and I think that's what makes I don't know. That's where I think when people get out and stuff, a lot of society in general is not really sympathetic to that because how many people know these stories like the one you're talking about right now because they see this stuff in movies. I think there's a movie actually that came out that's about like a water plant type deal. I think it's Marines or Army or something. They're in charge of basically building this water plant or keeping water flows available for like the locals and stuff. I mean, it gets like glamorized, I guess, in a sense, is what I'm trying to say. But it's very much the opposite, obviously, because in real life, it's real people, it's real individuals' lives are at stake. It's not just a camera and a green screen. So, I mean, it just baffles my mind hearing that story because in the Navy, I mean, it's dangerous working on the flight deck, but it's not anything remotely similar to that, obviously.
Oh,
So,
and like trust me, I think I had an easy time when it comes down to it being over there. Like I said, I didn't have to kick doors in. Like I got the luxury of being able to just stand and be behind a 50 cal in an up armored vehicle. Like so it didn't make me feel invincible, but I was just like if it's gonna be bad, then it's gonna have to be a whole lot of bad. But then I'm not gonna remember it anyways because then it's not gonna happen.
yeah. So, like, how do you go from, I guess, that transition going from college to Marines, and then those experience what you experienced, and then getting out? Like, what was that for you? What was the tinking point or the point where you're like, all right, I think I've had enough, instead of re-upping and doing another 4 years or becoming a lifer?
Actually, my because of the constant jumping in and out of the 7 tons and that instance that I told you about, the mortar going over my head, like I literally jumped from the top of the Humvee and I like perfectly splatted on the dirt floor. Like, so I just jumped like 6 feet off the ground and just went belly down. So my back eventually like deteriorated to the point I got a spinal fusion. So that was pretty much the telling me I'm getting kicked out now point. Not kicked out. I like medical and all that, but that it was I got 6 screws, 2 7-inch rods, and a steel cage wrapped around my lower spine now.
Holy
So,
crap.
and like I said, I was lucky. Like I didn't, man. Like there's people that got like I've had buddies blown up, hit by mortars, all that stuff. But like this was just the constant just abuse of me being a bigger guy too, because I'm 6'2", 220. Like I'm a big dude in the Marine Corps, so I'm carrying heavy stuff when people expect me to carry heavy stuff. Like the tow
Mhm.
bars that we had were like 250 pounds. There's little stickers on them, like 3-man carry, and like that goes out the window when you're getting shot at. You're like, I'm
Yeah.
not waiting for 2 other people and running with this. I'm just gonna pick it up and go. So
Wow.
like that was really my transition. But at the same time, my best friend when I was in, who's an armorer, he was diving deep, like hardcore into pride fighting, UFC, Ju-Jitsu, and everything. So him and his one buddy was they would always be at the internet cafe, and he was doing the research, and he actually took me to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that I think is what actually helped me transition the best from going from being in the Marine Corps back to being a civilian is doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Hmm. Well, that's what I've heard so far from a few people that I've talked to, even some friends and stuff that were in. It's finding that outlet in a sense, like when you're getting out, because it's hard to the thing I found hard when I got out was duplicating that camaraderie. Having that sense of purpose. Also, it was 4 years. I was 18 to 22, but every day, if you have a job to do. I think getting out that was tough for me. I wish I would have had more of an outlet, like you were saying, like a jujitsu or something. I kind of just got thrown out. That's what I feel like. Like I just the next day is like, oh crap, I'm going to college next week, and I didn't prep myself well enough for when I got out, which is because
I
they
think
do this whole
I think that's
transition thing.
I think that's a normal thing, man. Because I slept in my car for about 3 weeks before I found a place to stay. I was staying on my buddy's floor. I had a couch that I could sleep on every now and again. So yeah, I feel that that's almost like a normal. And they try to do stuff, but it's just it's just so hit or miss on like how the information is actually delivered, like how the message gets delivered. And so
Yeah, exactly. And they do the whole transition uh, classes. I'm not sure if they do it in the Marines, but in the Navy,
no, yeah, we got those too. We
you
skipped out
know,
and went to see Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. That's what we did. They're like, cool, okay, you're getting
yeah,
out.
it's the most pointless thing. Like I didn't take anything away from it. Like I went to it and they were just they're trying to like get you to stay in. That's what I took away from it. They're like trying to find
Like
ways.
a timeshare cell.
Yeah. Have you thought about the reserves? Are you sure you want to get out? It's like, what the hell, man? Like, okay. And then it's like, all right, the week's over and now you're flying back home and you just wake up the next day, like you're saying. I didn't have anything lined up work wise or I just, okay, here I am. Now I'm just out here in the world.
So I was literally just relying on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That was my only thing. And I got out and I was in Pendleton, so I moved about 2 hours north to Irvine and was just literally sleeping on my buddy's floor trying to find a job. Like this was when Blockbuster was still around. Like I couldn't get hired at Blockbuster. I couldn't get hired at a gas station. Nowhere. The only place I actually got hired was a furniture store. And the only reason I got hired was because the manager was an Air Force, like he served in the Air Force. And so he's like, "Oh, this guy's good." And I'm like, "Dude, why am I trying to sell furniture to people, man? Like that's not that.
Yeah, I get that. Like, because when I got out, I didn't get a job for months, and I had a first class pay officer who even told me that when I was getting out. I remember I was shining some brass or something, and he's like, because he was even telling me, he's like, when you get out, it's not as easy as you think it's going to be. He's like, you're not just going to get a job right away. And I was like, naive. I was like, oh, I'll be fine. Who doesn't want a freaking veteran working for him? And it's hard, man. It really is.
I failed. I think that little question is like, have you ever been in a fight with a fellow employee? And I'm like, well, yeah, like a few times.
Yeah, definitely questions like that. It's like, I mean, I've shown up to work, and maybe it's like hungover, drunk. I mean, been drinking the whole night before and go to work, so it's different. But then, kind of like you were saying, I ended up working at Lowe's. So it was my first job working at Lowe's, and I was working in garden, and I kind of had that same like thing that happened to you that happened to me. It's like, what the hell am I doing, man? Like 5 months ago, I was on the flight deck, freaking running around, jets were shooting off. I'm like in the shit, just exhilarating. I can't even describe how awesome it is to be on the flight deck when that's happening. So now I'm driving a forklift, loading bricks in somebody's truck. Just kind of,
Mundane, so mundane, right?
yeah.
I'm like,
It.
okay, would you like this couch? They're like, no. I'm like, you can sit on it. Why would you not like this couch?
I'm sure you were like that too, because it's like, man, the things that you're used to, I guess, and then coming back and like the luxuries that everyday people have. You're like, man, what the hell? Like, you're complaining about this? This is a nice couch, man. It's like, take it.
That's funny because like I met a guy where we moved up into the Prescott area now, and I just happened to come across a guy who I met doing jujitsu who was in the Navy, and it's just we love to talk about that so much, like on how like people are like, "Oh, this is so hard," and we're like, "You are you serious?" Like, so we get to like, it's funny because even though we never grew up together, we can still look at each other and have like those inside jokes on like, "You're serious? You're complaining about this? Like, come on now, come on."
That's what's great about the military, though. I think, like, no matter what branch and stuff, and like even what era or what time you served in, like that understanding of some of the things that people complain about. I think every veteran or every active military person can have agree to those types of things. Like, man, it's so small in the grand scheme of things that is like annoying to the average person. And I used to think that all the time too when I was at Lowe's, and they're like, "Oh, how come you guys still don't have this mulch or something?" I'm like, "Oh my god, for real! Like, of all the things that's going on in the world right now, this bag of mulch not being in stock
That's
is going to
the
just."
whole process, right?
It's like, I'm sorry, we don't have your mulch. I mean, I don't know, and that's one of the funniest transitions. I think that's what made it hard for me too. Actually, is just trying to wrap my head around dealing with complaints and then going to school and then hearing the same thing in the classroom from 18, 19-year olds just like complaining about, oh my God, I got to pay for parking today. My dad didn't give me $20 for parking. I'm just like, damn, for real? Like that's your hardest thing at 18 years old?
Man, yeah, it's funny the entitlement that I feel that those people that didn't experience joining the military feel like there was one guy down that we're training with. He's like, man, we can train, but don't touch my wrist because it hurts. I'm like, are you like, dude, like what? Like you're training this to like be self defense, right? I'm like, what if I wasn't nice right now and I just wanted to like, how are you just no, just please don't grab stop. You're not allowed to do that. Like, okay, guy.
Yeah, in
So
the real fight, that's not going to happen. So
right, like so why even show up if that's going to be your excuse. If you're not feeling well enough to do that, why even show up and waste my time now? And
Hmm.
that's what I get irritated about. It's like that little entitlement, and like all you're doing is holding everybody back today because you don't want to train remotely realistically.
Hmm. I
So
think there's still some parts of me that struggle with that part of everyday life. I've been out for 10 years now, and it's still every once in a while I catch myself. I'm just like, man, I can't believe this is happening. Like, this is really the hardest thing that this person's dealing with right now. And but I catch myself and I just like, okay, because my brother told me this one time. He's like, what's might you might perceive as hard as or not hard is hard for somebody else in a sense. He's like, you think of stress and everybody's like, well, is that kid stressing? They're a kid. They don't have nothing to stress about. But at that in that moment in time, that kid has experienced something that's stressful in their lives. Like that's their toy broke in half. And that's the most stressful thing they've had to deal with.
and that's fine and dandy, but when you're 25 years old and your most stressful thing you've had is a hurt wrist, then no, no.
Especially in combat sports, right? I mean,
Right? Like
like I'm a
this is what you're signing up to do. Like it's like saying if I wanted to do Muay Thai, but you're not allowed to kick me.
yeah, no knees, no elbows,
Yeah,
please.
no knees, no elbows, but we're gonna do some Muay Thai. Oh, okay.
That's that's funny, and I think that's cool. He found like jujitsu because I'm a big MMA fan. I grew up watching it with my older brother and stuff, and I love it. So I wonder, like, how what did you find in jujitsu that made that transition easy for you, getting out of the Marines? Besides just maybe having an outlet, like
That
for
aggressive
aggression or
outlet
something.
was definitely one thing, but I've been fortunate enough in the schools that I've been at to have some just really solid teachers. And like being able to go against someone like like I said, I'm 6'2", and being in the military, like I don't care how big or tall you are, I have that big respect for you. And then you can find that in jujitsu because what actually really like what sold me 100% on it was I got choked out by a guy who weighed 150 pounds with his ankle. And so you could see like that like, oh man, this stuff works. And it was like an
Mhm.
instant correlation of, hey, this is what my sergeant was talking about, and like it didn't matter his size. Like he knew his stuff. Let me follow that. And then plus I get to choke you with my ankle. Like that was the coolest thing ever. Like I said, I'm 6'2", 220, and I go barreling at this guy. And he just calmly accepts it, wraps his foot around my face, and just starts choking me with it. And I'm like, this is the for real stuff.
And there's
And
so yeah,
so,
there's some structure that's similar, I'm guessing, then to like the military also, because you do have your different colored belts and stuff like that as well. So there's that experience factor and
and you can
um
see instantly who's the BSer and who's telling the truth. And it, like I said, once again, it didn't correlate to size. It Your knowledge is what really like, man, like this dude is 5'6", 150 pounds, like, and if this is happening, I need to listen to this dude. And so it was like an instant like snap back into when he would tell me to do something. Okay, I got this now.
yeah.
So
See, that's one of my regrets because when I was when I got out, I lived in San Diego and I went to jiu-jitsu for like a month. I wish I would have
oh,
stuck
there's
with it.
so many schools that are so great in San Diego, man.
I
You
know I
got
went to
so many top schools down there. So many. I love. Okay, so in San Diego, you got Richie Martinez, you got Clark Gracie, you got Alliance, you got Andre Galval. Even though a lot of people don't like Andre Galval, he's still got a pretty dope school. You got Keenan Cornelia. You got like that's five right off the bat, man. Like that's such a great place to go train.
Yeah, I went to some small one. It was in what's the area called? Santee. So it's like an outskirts of San Diego. It's called Five Star MMA. I went there for like 1 month, and I wish I would have stuck with it because this is still in the time where I'm kind of struggling with trying to find my footing. getting out of the military. I hadn't even been out like a year, I don't think yet. Um, but I did have like a humbling experience, kind of like what you're saying. I was rolling with a purple belt who had to be, he was, he had a gut and he was definitely older than me. I'd say he's probably like in his 50s at the time. I was 22. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be easy. And he rolled me up like a pretzel. That was like the most humbling. And I'm a big guy. I'm like you. I'm like 6'2" at that time, like 200 pounds. And I got rolled up really quick. And I was like, holy crap. And that was like,
Amazing what people can do.
yeah, it's one of those moments that now when I see people like getting fights on the streets and they get mollywopped by somebody, I'm like, that's why you just don't start fights with people because you don't know what they know. Doesn't matter how they look. I mean, it could be the most deceiving,
Absolutely,
scrawny
man.
little guy.
Yeah, it's a very, and that's what I think really helps me uh, calm down from time to times because of that anxiety that I have and all that. Like, I don't want to say stress or anger, but like just general, just antsiness. Like, like being choked out and going, okay, I don't know what this guy can do. This guy could be like high class Muay Thai, and I get kicked upside the head. And then that
Hmm.
jujitsu ain't going to do nothing for me if I'm unconscious. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
like, it makes me just reevaluate. Hey, cool. Maybe I do need to just calm down and not worry about this. That's the biggest thing. Because
So do
yeah,
you
that
do?
dude could just absolutely hurt you bad.
Yeah, and you see those type of stories and videos all the time where it's. I've seen one where like some robbers or something like that try to basically break into this lady's house. She had just pulled in her gate, and these guys on motorcycles jumped off, or one ran in. They tried to grab her, but she's like a professional fighter. She turned around, and started whooping their ass, and it's just like that's why, man. People that have the guts to go just pick fights with people, good for you because you got a different type of courage, man. Like I could never
Like the best one I've
do
seen
that.
is like, I don't know if you see, it was in a parking garage. And these two dudes are going at it, and this guy's just swinging his arms around. He's getting really into it. The other guy takes like a legitimate stance. And then as soon as the guy comes in, he just leg kicks him, knocks the guy over. The guy stands back up. And as he's running towards him, the guy that leg kicked the first time does a double leg and just dumps him on his head. And that's it. Fight's over. Like it was done.
Yeah, that's what's you gotta be.
And it was all because that first guy was literally instigating everything. The other guy was like, no, dude, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And he kept on coming. And mollywop is one of the greatest words ever. So,
Yeah. And it's funny because I think of like MMA in just general. I wonder how many because there's veteran fighters that have gone to UFC. There's like Tim Kennedy's one of them. Um,
Justin
Brian
Gaethje.
Stan. Um, I can't think of some other ones. I know there's a few, but I wonder if that's kind of the same situation that like you're talking about yourself, basically. Like they got out and having that outlet because it's like, man, like you're saying, you have anxiety and you're in this high pressure situation for 4 years or however long they were in. It's like not necessarily duplicate it, but how do you channel it? I guess in a sense where you can find some comfort at the end of the day, knowing that okay, I did this, it's out of me, whatever you're feeling. I mean, what does it do for you besides just anxiety? Like, is there a sense of calmness after you practice and you grapple and stuff like
It
that?
makes me reflect more like when I'm doing stuff around the house, like after doing jujitsu and stuff like that, like the most stressful thing in the world right now for me now is someone trying to choke me. So if I can calmly get out of people choking me, like, okay, let me step back and not get so angry at why I can't build this piece of furniture. Like, it's okay. I don't need to throw every piece of wood against the house and just start from scratch. Like, just take a minute. Like, you've fought out of worse situations and you can come up with a solution without that like negative energy associated with getting that stress out. So
Hmm.
it really just it helps me reevaluate just like, okay, this is silly. Like I've been in way worse situations.
You think that's like, in your opinion, do you think that's something that maybe even no folks have gone through this, or some veterans, they get out and they can't find that outlet or whatever it may be to kind of release some of that tension that they're feeling within themselves, and then they kind of slip through the cracks. And that's why obviously you got your lower 22 company going. So like, where does that, how am I try to word this here? What would you recommend then, in a sense, for those veterans? Because I'm sure that some, I'd imagine, or heard stories, and
That's
because not
actually like
everybody.
why I started lower 22, because it's so much easier to try to do activities. It doesn't have to be jujitsu, like rock
Mhm,
climbing, mountain biking, whatever. It's so much easier to do that, for me at least, with another veteran. Like finding another veteran that likes to do that, because then guess what? I'm not worried if they're going to complain about something stupid and then get angry and all that stuff. They're gonna have that same outlook. Okay, this happened. Let's get over it. You know.
mhm,
And so finding somebody to just connect to outside, the military, it would be so much more beneficial, I feel, because there are 18 million vets. Only 9 million are actually eligible for any kind of VA healthcare. And then I
wow.
believe that number is about a third for people actually like authorized and approved for mental health care. And so you have a huge group of people that just have no way of directly connecting to another veteran. Like you have all like Instagram and Facebook that you can get onto, but
Hmm.
everybody's on there. Lower 22 is literally just veterans and active duty military. And so you can find somebody who has that same empathy, that same shared experience, and actually go ahead and, like I said, I found a guy that's a mile away from me, and I don't share like, you know, stories with him in that regards, but like it's so much easier to be around him and do things with him because I feel a sense of ease. And having
Hmm.
that ability to just streamline that communication and find another veteran is what I think is huge, because maybe you find someone who's interested in BJJ. They can show you that, or maybe you can find somebody who's into mountain biking and they can take you there, instead of you just feeling like, okay, how do I go about pursuing a hobby now?
Yeah. That's so true. I mean, and that's kind of like what I think about what I was saying earlier. When I got out, I wish I would have, but there's no, like, prep for that more, but there's no way to really know prep for it if you haven't gone through it, I guess. Because, I mean, I think that's where so many folks fall through the cracks. Like you're saying, only 9 million are eligible for benefits, but then how many of them go to the VA, and they just get run around circles. They get prescribed this, prescribed that. They're not actually fixing
And then you
anything.
have to fit in their little box, like, because how many veterans are afraid to go in there and reveal something and get those benefits taken away?
Yeah.
Like then that's their livelihood. And then, because their studies have even shown there's an average like 5-year increase to a person's lifespan by having somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Like the average age is usually 33 years old of a veteran that kills themselves. That's the average age. They've shown if that same person had somebody to talk to, that at least it extended it by 5 years.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you don't have any of that access, you're just, where are you supposed to go? A Facebook group? Like, come on now. Like, how buried is a Facebook group? How many
Exactly.
people do you really remember meeting up with? You know, it's logistically almost impossible, because once you leave the military, you scatter to the winds again. So you might have friends that live in Boston, but is that Boston friend going to be able to actually help you out in that like moment of need? Like physically, logistically, can they do that? Or like my app has, you can geolocate to like the mile of a veteran that you could potentially just go have a cup of coffee with.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's what I like about your app. I mean, I've already jumped on there, because kind of like what you're saying too. I think I'm sure it's like this for most veterans, if not every veteran. Like when you get out, nobody asks you how you feel, and like you said, how do most veterans don't want to get into it like that with just a normal person, with another a doctor or an office clerk, whatever it may be. But not saying that even veterans deal with other veterans, but there's that commonality where, you know, you have, even those different experiences, maybe you both know how it is to be in there, how to be in the
So
military,
I
the
like
rigors of it.
already, dude. I've met you for maybe 50 minutes now,
Yeah,
and
50 minutes.
it's so much easier just to talk to you about these things than anybody else. Like
Hmm.
it is. It's a more natural conversation than trying to like put the same like if I said the stuff half the stuff I said, like civilians are gonna be like, oh, hmm. And not like you're not going to get that genuine response that you were looking for. Like you asked me a question, I'm going to give you an honest answer, but then they're never ready to hear that
Hmm.
honest answer.
Yeah, and they can't relate to it also. So it kind of, I wonder how often, if a veteran does give an honest answer to even a family member, that how's that family member interpret that? Do they feel empathy? Do they like, oh, let me help you, let's try to figure this out together? Or they just take it, okay, you told me, and then do something else, don't really help you with it. And like that's one of those things I think about. I was thinking about this even prior or coming up to our conversation. When I got out of the military, no one in my family even asked me like, how are you doing, how's this transition going? A lot of it's, I mean, I'm not saying that that's bad on them, but how would they even know what to ask me if they've never experienced what I've gone through in the first place? And then how do I engage in that conversation without seeing like, man, I'm totally losing it to them and then causing panic? Because that's one thing I think most veterans don't want to do also, is cause panic in the ones that care about them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's like I said, why I developed this is because I was being motor T, one of the things I absolutely love to do to decompress is I literally just go for drives. Like I like to do around like my whole goal is to see every state in the United States, and I like to drive for like 14 hours at a time. Like I'll wake up at 4 a.m. and I'll be all pumped, and then the next thing I know, like uh, last trip I took, I literally drove to Wisconsin, like the border, just to be like I got to Wisconsin, and then just drove back, and like that's what a complete help of like the decompression is for me. So
Hmm.
like and but when I was doing that, I was like, how cool would it be if there was just another vet nearby that just man just wants to freaking meet up and just maybe go ahead, man, go play golf. How cool would that be to just be in Nebraska? No, not Nebraska. That's a horrible example. But like, okay, let's put somewhere better. Like, how cool would it be to be in California and then be like, cool, like I like to golf, and then you can find a veteran who golfs that you can just go play 9 holes with, and they know the places. Hey, let's go here. This is a pretty awesome spot, and we just go play golf. And so that's what I was thinking about on my last trip when I went to Wisconsin. Like, how cool would that be to just have that ability? Because, like I said, you can find people on Facebook, you can find Instagram and stuff like that, but unless you know where that person is really at, you can never meet up with them, you
Yep.
know? And so, like, it has that functionality of just being like, hey, I'm in this place for business. I like doing this stuff. Is there any other veterans that I can go hang and just hang around with, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I like about the app. And because I mean, I don't know many veterans in like the area that I live in. I work with some. I'm in a construction industry, so that's where I feel like a lot of veterans actually goes towards construction. Um, so you kind of meet them that way. But yeah, I think that would be cool. Like I was doing a lot of traveling from work this past year, going to East Coast and stuff. That would have been cool to be like, hey, who's out here that wants to go get like a drink and just shoot the shit
Right?
for an
Like,
hour or
like,
2
how
hours,
great would that be to just meet up and then once again, it's like doing what you're doing now, finding out their experiences. And then
Yeah.
just for them being able to talk and just get it off their chest in a nice, normal manner. Like, dude, that would be so huge just to like do that.
Yeah, because I think the conversations like we're talking about too is it's hard to have an honest conversation with somebody who was not in the military without almost being like judged. I think that happens too, where I mean I've talked to people about my experiences and or try to, and it's on deaf ears. They're just like, that doesn't sound incredibly bad, like you did anything crazy, but I don't know, they can't relate. So um I think having a veteran to call up and meet up is essential. Like I'm pretty lucky. My best friend's still in Louisiana, but kind of like you're saying, he knows where I'm at. But I can't just if he needed me today, it's almost impossible for me to just pick up and go help him out. So hopefully, using an app like yours, connecting within the community, like whenever he's coming across a tough time, or any other veterans out there, they can pull that up, be like, okay, damn, there's somebody right here, and they, like you're saying, want to go ride bikes. They do jujitsu or boxing, whatever it may be, some type of martial arts, sports.
Gator hunting while you're in
Um,
Louisiana, find what you like to do.
yeah, I think it's important because, I always think of this one story, or not story. I saw it like firsthand when I was working at Lowe's. Um, this kid had just got out of the army. I say kid, I was 22, but he was like 20. He got out early, I think, or something. And I remember he'd punch a soda machine. Like every once in a while, he'd just lose it, and he would freak out and start punching like the soda machine, the vending machines. He'd kick them. I remember the way that our coworkers would look at him like, man, something like that dude's crazy, But it's like, I remember I would tell him, he's like, do you know what he's going through though? I mean, you got to think about what he's experienced at 18 years old, going to the Middle East in the army. I'm not sure what he did. Never actually sat down and talked to him, but it's like he's probably experienced some crap that is just eating away at him. And then if it is, who does he vent that to? Because you go to the VA, they're not going to really do anything. Like where I said earlier, they'll probably prescribe you some pills or put you on the waiting list. And now you're just in this endless cycle. You're just in a system of being lost, and nobody seems to really care. And I think that's where a lot of veterans end up committing suicide. Also, is they come out and then it seems like nobody cares. Like there's no.
That's honestly perfect. Like what you're saying is like nobody does care. And that's another huge thing with like the app that I'm trying to, that I just put out, but like really wanted to take off is I want to show my appreciation. I just want to like all I want to do is give away free gifts. Like I feel like I'm a Nigerian prince scam artist and people are like, okay, we'll give you $200 and then we'll see. No, like, dude, I just want to thank you. And like, my one buddy who I do jujitsu with, he wasn't in, but he jumped on board immediately at the Prescott Cow Club. And dude, like, I'm giving away a shotgun, and that's for no other reason than that you were a veteran. If you want a shotgun, then you get a shotgun, or giving away a knife. We got steel targets and everything like that, like stuff that we like to do. I just want to give gifts back
Yeah,
to
let
the
me see if I
veterans
could.
and show that appreciation.
I'll pull this up here. I was looking at something here on your. Oh man, what the hell's this thing doing here? 1 second. Pull this up too so people can see this. If they end up listening to this on Spotify or whatever, though, they're not gonna be able to see it. But yeah, this is your Instagram page. If you want to kind of walk through it, I saw this too, and I was like, oh man, so he does jujitsu.
Right.
But
Yeah. So, the Benchmade knife that we got, Ryan contributed that, and that's literally just one thing that we're trying to give away. We got the app on both the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. Uh, like I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and honestly, we just had a seminar up here where I live. We raised $900 off of it, and we're gonna get Dakota Meyer just started a subscription box, or he's a part of the subscription box. So in a month or so, when we do our next giveaway, we're gonna give away a subscription box and stuff like that. And like I'll go anywhere to do jujitsu, and as long as I don't have to fly, I don't like flying. Like if I could drive there, I'll go.
I know you're saying you're all about driving. You're like, hey man, if it's 20 hours, I'll be there.
Yeah, like I could do that. That's no problem. But if you put me on a plane, you got to go like old school BA Baracus from the A team and like drug me up and throw me on there, and I'll just be angry later. But yeah, I don't like the flying, man.
I don't blame you. I'm not a big flyer either. I don't know why, but I've flown so much, and I think I'm just tired of flying.
I
Like I just don't like flying.
I don't. Yeah, and then I am horrible on any kind of water device, a boat, a ship, a schooner. Like I get instantly seasick. And so I would
Oh
just not
man.
be a good travel buddy on that either. So, but if I can drive to your gym, I'd definitely do it.
Yeah, so the Marines was the right path then if you get
Uh,
water sickness or seasickness. So
yeah, because
that's
I actually found out that seasickness when we were doing, uh, I might get this wrong because it's been like 2 decades now. Uh, that hovercraft, the LCAC, we were doing a little training thing for them. So we drove all like some Humvees and some 7 tons on their little hovercraft up in Pendleton. And then they drove out on the ocean. And then they're like, yeah, we're broke. And it was just like 3 hours of
oh crap.
that. And I was like, no, 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 I don't like this at all, guys. I don't know how you guys do that. You guys are way tougher.
Uh, like when we were on deployment, a few people got seasickness and stuff, and I always thought it was kind of crazy on the carrier because you don't really feel it, like it just.
Everybody says, but man, I don't know. Maybe I'm just sensitive. That's the sensitive part of me.
Oh man. Well, yeah. I mean, I appreciate you coming on and
Hey,
everything.
thank you so much for having me. Like I said, man, I appreciate and love what you're doing. I've gotten into some episodes, and dude, it's nice hearing conversation and seeing what you're doing, man. I hope you really find a footing in this, and this just takes off for you, man. Like it's really cool. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. I mean, your support and everything. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Get veterans on here and try and get some folks that have programs as well. I know there's so many. Um, and kind of like you were alluding to, also. I mean, you got Facebook and Instagram, and there's a lot of these groups live on there. But I mean, how do you find the right group if you're a veteran? How do you even find a group?
And that's
Um,
what's great too, because honestly, on my app, you can block people you don't want to see either. So if that person's like a blue falcon, you can just get rid of him.
oh, that's funny. Um, yeah, so yeah, I appreciate everything you're doing with the lower 22. I mean, it seems like that number gets bigger every year. Just a couple years ago it was like at 19 veterans a day, and then became 20 and at 21 and it's 22. It's just
Actually, what I was doing today, it was it's 28.7 in 2020 is the suicide rate.
dang.
That's what it is right now.
And man, because it's sad. It happens way more often than it needs to. I mean, a suicide in general is bad, obviously, but that's incredibly high. Um, like we had a senior chief that I served with. He had retired, Senior Chief Barriga, this a couple years ago, and he actually killed himself. I don't know the whole circumstances behind him doing it, but I mean, stuff like that just it sucks because I served with him. He was he was like a oorah guy. And you think about veterans, and they served with somebody. They're somebody's father or somebody's son, husband, wife, whatever it may be, somebody's child. And so many of them fall through the cracks. I mean, I don't know what hit around the circumstances around him and his suicide, but I'm sure there's so many veterans that they do long services like that, or even short services, whatever it is, or however many years they're in. They come out and they do feel alone. They feel lost. They don't have a community. So I love what you're doing, what your app, and
Appreciate
even
I
incentivizing
appreciate
it with
that.
these promotions. It's like, come on, guys, like come in,
And
jump
that's
in the
all we
group.
want to do. Like this is literally the beginning of what I have planned. Like ultimately where I want to see this app grow to is I want to be able to give veterans like vacations. Like I want to be able to be like, hey, flights taken care of, rental properties taken care of, the amusement parks taken care of. Go with your family. You have one, like that's where I want to get with this app is give veterans that appreciation that they don't get when they get out. And
Mhm.
it's an easy to find thing, which is in a hard to find place.
Yeah, giving them, on those when they're having those tough moments and those tough days, maybe a way out. They get a good trip with their family, just to relax, and sometimes that's needed. I mean, it's
Like kind of like I want to be like a magnet when you're searching for a needle in a haystack. I just want you guys to get what you deserve.
mhm. And that's one of those things that is hard because when you do like Google search veteran clubs or VA stuff around you, I mean that list can be enormous. Like I've done it before, and it's like, okay, well, if I want to go join a veterans group, which one would I join? There's like 13, 14 around me, and
That's
it's
actually
hard to
something
do.
that I'm building in on the back end right now. Is um, I want to say the term is geofencing, but what I'm trying to do now is also put in the VA healthcare. So if you drive within a certain distance of one, you'll actually get pinged. Or if you drive within a certain distance of a VFW, you will know now where all those centers are.
See, that's cool. I mean, yeah, nobody knows that stuff. I mean, that's I guess one of the main things around this whole conversation is veterans don't have these tools, or even ones that active military members are transitioning out. They don't have any tools to, okay, I'm getting out or I'm out. This could help me. It's just there's the door. Thanks for your service and good luck. You know, and then that's it. And then you're off to fend for yourself. And luckily, like veterans like yourself, they find something, because not every veteran finds something that kind of gets them through whatever they're going through. Um, like for me, it was hard, but I think I found comfort in just like random things. Having my kids definitely
That's
gave me
awesome.
that sense of comfort and purpose that I think I was searching for such a long time. And it's hard for everybody, and everybody can find that purpose or that outlet that they need. So yeah, I really appreciate it. So
Well, thank you so much again for having me, man. I appreciate being on.
all right, well, I'll catch you next time, I guess. So greatly appreciate you for tuning in, watching this podcast, or listening to it via Spotify or YouTube. Please like and subscribe below. Click on the alert button so anytime there's a new episode, you will find out. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.